Okay, so this video is going to be on trig ratios. It's part 2 of trig ratios. We did the first part yesterday. Just recall from yesterday that we can use SOHCAHTOA to find the different sides of a triangle. So we have sine is opposite over adjacent. Excuse me. The opposite side is always the one that is furthest from the angle in question. The adjacent side is the one closest to the side that we're looking for. So if I'm looking, if this is theta, my opposite side is the one that's not touching it. The adjacent side touches it. And of course, this is my hypotenuse. So we can remember that sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent opposite over adjacent. And this is a nice little graphic to help you to remember that. If you need to write that down, please do so, because you have to know this. Alrighty, so if you look on page 23 of your notes, page 24 of your notes, I'm going to do the left side of that equation with you. I'm going to do the left side of that. So what we have is problem number 1, and we're given that the angle is 28 degrees. We're given the hypotenuse is 19, and we're trying to find x. So we have to ask, what is the relationship between x and the angle? And we see that x is opposite because it's not touching this angle. It's the opposite side of that angle. So we know we have to use one of the functions that uses opposite. So remember, sine theta is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. So because x is opposite 28, I'm either going to use this one or this one. So I have to ask, what other piece of information am I given? Well, I'm given the hypotenuse. I'm given 19. I know it's the hypotenuse because it's opposite the right angle. So since I have the hypotenuse and the opposite side, I want to use sine. So the way I set this up is I have to say the sine of 28 degrees is equal to opposite over the hypotenuse. Now, I need to find this number, and I need to use my calculator. One of the things you want to make sure is that your calculator is in degree mode. So take a moment and make sure your calculator is in degree mode. So once your calculator is in degree mode, you're just simply going to hit on your calculator sine 28, which is 0.469. So in this class, we're going to go to 2 places behind the decimal, so 0.47 is equal to x over 19. And now this is simply a ratio problem. We're going to cross multiply, and we get 19 times 0.47 is equal to x. So times 19, and I get that this side is approximately 8.9. Okay? And we weren't given any measures, so we don't have to tell whether or not it's meters or anything because we weren't given anything. Okay, let's try the next problem. I'm doing problem number 3 on that same page. And so for this problem, I'm told I'm given this angle of 21 degrees. I am looking for x, and I'm given the hypotenuse. So once again, I have to ask myself, I know that sine of the angle is equal to opposite over the hypotenuse. I know that cosine of that angle is adjacent over hypotenuse. And I know that tangent is opposite over adjacent. So now I have to ask myself, which one do I need to use? So this is the angle that I'm given. 26 is the hypotenuse, and x is adjacent because it is next to the angle in question. It's adjacent to it. It's touching it. It's adjacent. So I'm going to use adjacent and hypotenuse. So that means that the cosine of 21 degrees is equal to the adjacent side, which is x, over the hypotenuse. I wrote that wrong. Sorry. That's over hypotenuse. So the adjacent over the hypotenuse. So once again, I use my handy-dandy calculator and I do the cosine of 21. Then I get 0.93. And that's equal to x over 26. So I multiply both sides by 26. And I get 24.3 if I round that. Okay? This is problem number 5 on that same page. And we have this side is 15, and we're told that this is x, and we're looking and we're given this angle. So again, which trig ratio am I going to use? Remembering that sine of theta is equal to opposite over the hypotenuse. Cosine of theta is equal to the adjacent over the hypotenuse. And tangent of theta is equal to the opposite over the adjacent. Okay, so I have 33, so everything has to be in terms of 33. So 33 and 15, 15 is opposite 33, so I know I'm going to either use this one or tangent, but I also know I'm looking for the hypotenuse. So I'm trying to find the relationship that compares the opposite side and the hypotenuse. So that would be this triangle. That would be sine theta. So I would say sine of 33 degrees is equal to the opposite side, in this case is 15, over x. Now that's a little different than the ones we've done before, but remember we can cross multiply because everything goes over 1. So again, using my handy-dandy calculator, I do sine of 33, and I get 0.544, or 0.54 over 1 is equal to 15 over x. Cross multiplying, up here, I get 0.54x is equal to 15. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 0.54. And that should give me, so I have 15 divided by 0.54. And that's going to give me 27.8, around to the nearest tenth. Okay? Alrighty, let's do another one. Now this is similar. This one just has this little tootie sticking up in the air there. But we're given that this is 72 degrees. We're looking for this side, and we're given this side. Now remember, I'm sorry, that's 25. The hypotenuse is always the opposite the right angle. So this is my hypotenuse. Now I have to ask myself, what is the relationship between 72 and x and 72 and 25? So remember, your relationships are sine theta is equal to opposite over the hypotenuse. Cosine theta is equal to the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. And tangent theta is equal to the opposite over the adjacent. Okay, so having said all of that, we see that we're looking for an adjacent side, and we have an opposite side. This is the hypotenuse, so I can't use sine theta or cosine theta because they both need the hypotenuse, and I don't have the hypotenuse, and I'm not looking for it. So I have an adjacent side and an opposite side, which causes me to use tangent. So I'm going to say tangent of 72 degrees is equal to the opposite side, which would be 25, over the adjacent side, which is x. So once again, I'm going to use my handy-dandy calculator. So I have tan of 72 is 3.0, let's say 3.1, rounding, that's 3.1. Let's erase that because that looks bad. That's 3.1 is equal to 25 over x. Once again, I'm just going to use what we've done before and cross multiply. So I get 3.1x is equal to 25. Divide both sides by 3.1. And I get x is equal to 8.06, or 8.1. Okay? So let's do this one last word problem. And in this word problem, we have to kind of draw the picture. So we've talked about this before. Anytime we have a ladder, that's going to be our hypotenuse. So Jake leaned a 12-foot ladder up against the house. This house is not plumb. It's kind of leaning. I don't know who lives there. But it's kind of... Okay, so that's our house. And Jake leaned a 12-foot ladder, so this will be our ladder. And he wants to know and if the angle formed by the ladder and the ground, so this would be the ground, that would be the ground. The angle formed between the ground and the ladder is 68 degrees. And this is 12 feet because that's the hypotenuse. The ladder is always the hypotenuse. How far from the base of the house did he place the ladder? So we're looking for x. So because I'm looking for x and I've given 68 degrees, which one am I going to use? Sine, cosine, or tangent? Well, x is adjacent. The ladder is the hypotenuse, so I need to use cosine because cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So I'm going to do cosine of 68 degrees is equal to the adjacent side, which is x, over the hypotenuse, which is 12. Again, using the calculator to find cosine, I get cosine of 68, which is 0.374. I'm sorry, is equal to x over 12. I cross multiply. I get 12 times 0.374 is equal to x. And doing that on the calculator, I get 4.5. So 4.5 is equal to x. And so he's about 4.5 feet from the house. Okay? Now, what I want you to do right now is I want you to do problems 2 through 10. Do the even problems, set them up. If you have questions, raise your hand and I will come help you. When you are finished doing that, call me over, let me check it, and then you can move on to today's assessment. I hope this video has been helpful, and have an amazing day.